In an industry stuffed with marketing bullshit, empty promises, and shiny-suited liars, one woman's had enough. She knows what it's like to have the wrong clients, no money, and no time for fun. But she also knows how to fix it. And on the Business for Superheroes show, she promises to tell the down and dirty truth about business, sales, and running away with the circus. Here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the Business for Superheroes show. I'm Vicky Fraser and this is my husband Joe.
Hello.
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 He was refusing to sing Tainted Love with me earlier. Just thought I'd throw that out there. So anyway, we're drinking peppermint tea tonight. Cheers, Joe.
Misery tea.
Not misery tea, peppermint tea. It's really hot.
It's going to be crazy hot. I just boiled like 10 seconds ago. That's no good.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we drank gin and tonic yesterday with Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Barbara. And so, so today we're drinking peppermint tea. Anyway, right.
Right. What?
Well, house update.
House update. Big weekend.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, and actually we're telling you this. This is a really good business lesson as well, because with all of the stair excitement happening in our house and the stairs almost being finished and built.
Oh, my God.
And being beautiful.
They are beautiful.
They're going to be beautiful.
The process of putting, handcrafted bespoke oak staircases into a house
is not quick.
It's not a quick process.
No, but then nor should it be.
No.
But anyway, that's been happening the last couple of weeks. And after a summer of really feeling like we've not got a lot done and just like we've been here forever and got not much done. And then on Saturday, we just got loads done. We tidied up all of the mess that's been created.
The building site that is our house at the moment.
Yep.
Tip run. Did
a tip run. We chopped down a trunk from the sycamore tree, chopped it all up and put it away to lie as firewood for next winter. Mm-hmm. And then my friend Sarah came... Oh.
Service the Rayburn.
So it's now warm in here, so I don't have to wear gloves anymore while I'm working. My friend Sarah came round. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
And I was kind of talking to her about, come and see the stairs. Doesn't feel like we've made much progress. And she just looked around and was like, you've done so much since you've moved in. And I just wanted to tell you that. Oh, also, we did some plastering this weekend.
Did some plastering, got blisters and chemical burns to prove it.
Yes, I did plastering too, which I was very excited about. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that because sometimes in your business or in life, when whatever you're doing, it can feel like you're not getting anywhere because you're so close to it and you're living in it. And you're like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done?
It's all really incremental stuff.
It is really incremental stuff. And that's normal. It's very rare that people make massive leaps forward. But sometimes, something can kickstart it. And I think for us, it was seeing the staircase suddenly, didn't suddenly go up, but a lot of stuff had been done in the background and now the staircase is kind of up. And that kind of kicked us to, it feels like huge progress. So we can go and do a load more stuff because we know exactly what we need to do and where we need to do it and how it's going to work. And it's no different in your business. Sometimes hitting a big milestone, it can feel like, even though it's taken ages to get there incrementally, it can feel like a really big thing has just happened and that can spur you on to carry on. I think it's also really important to sit down and evaluate what you've done at the end of every week and month so that you can see how much you have done and how far you've come. Yeah,
because Sarah turning up, suddenly she threw a lens on it, didn't she? She's like, you've done all this and this has changed and that's changed and this room's gone and these stairs are up and this is lovely and da-da-da.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to see it when you're in.
Yeah. And if you actually take time to sit back and look back at what you've done, you can then see it. And it's really important to do that in your business as well, because otherwise you just get disheartened. Because if it feels like you're not getting anywhere, you get disheartened. So it's really important to look at the actions that you're taking as well as the results that you're getting. Because results do take a long time. Often overnight successes take years. Yeah. That sounds a bit trite and daft.
Measure the actions.
Yeah, measure the actions and
acknowledge them.
Yeah, and the results will happen. Okay, so what we're talking today, we're on quark number 3 of the 7 quarks of highly successful business people. And this one is all about once upon a time It's all about storytelling.
Okay.
Again, and I know we talk about storytelling fairly often, but hey, that's what I do. And as a business owner and a marketer, that is what you should be doing too, dear listener. Because, I'm going to quote Lisa Cron from her excellent book, Wired for Story. She says, opposable thumbs let us hang on. Story tells us what to hang on to. And I like that quote because it's true. We learn through story.
I think she might be technically incorrect.
Why?
I don't think you hang on with your opposable thumbs. I think you manipulate tools with your opposable thumbs. I think you hang on with your fingers.
Oh, but you've just ruined a perfectly good story. You know what she means.
I do. I just wish she was technically correct.
Well, I think cats don't hang on with their fingers.
Well, they don't hang on with their opposable thumbs either, do they?
No, they just dig their claws in. But monkeys hang on with their
fingers.
Opposable thumbs. Oh, shush. The point is, facts tell and stories sell.
Right.
They do.
I can go with that.
Okay,
it's good. Not wrong.
Is that the best I'm going to get out of you? It's not wrong. Okay. I'm going to spend most of this podcast being wrong and cross, and Joe's going to spend most of this podcast being wrong and thinking he's right. And burning his tongue.
I'm having a go at this mint tea that's just still way too hot.
Yes. Right. So we've done storytelling before. I'm not going to apologise for it because the most successful business owners are master storytellers, and that is a factoid.
Okay.
That factoid doesn't have to sell. I'm just telling it to you. So why are stories so powerful, Joe?
I'm going to go along with a pre-literate society, and everybody being wired. What?
Nothing. Carry on. No,
Are you mouthing at me there?
I wasn't. Carry on.
Jeepers.
Nuneaton is a pre-literate society. Sorry, carry on.
Well, you grew up there.
I know I did.
Pre-literate societies, sitting around campfires, you want to teach children anything, you want to maintain your histories, you want to keep your legends and all that sort of stuff alive, all your family stories and everything, it's all going to be done verbally. So we're good at verbal, and we're not so good at the written. And
if you want people to remember all of those family histories, then just giving them a string of facts is not going to get the job done.
No.
Because facts, they can be interesting, but only in the context of story and how it fits in with what we care about and the lives that we live. Yeah. So I'm going to just run through a few reasons why storytelling is a skill that if you want to have a successful business and you want to sell to people, you need to be able to tell good stories. You need to become really good at telling stories that keep people listening. Not the kind of rambly stories where, we all know that person that we run away from in the pub because they just ramble.
Okay. So what, I'm putting on my car mechanic persona. What's my car mechanic persona? Okay. When we say storytelling is important and everybody should be telling stories and all that kind of thing, what stories should my car mechanic be telling?
Their own story.
Their own story?
Yeah, other stories as well, but I'm really concentrated because we've talked about storytelling in other contexts before, in previous podcasts. I think it's podcast 119.
What?
I know, right?
What?
Are you impressed?
The hell?
Possibly 109. Definitely a 1 and a 9 in it, and definitely from this year.
It could be 19, 91, 109.
119.
119.
Yeah, I think. Anyway, I'm talking about telling your story here, and there's a few reasons for that. Reason the first. Stories allow you to connect with your audience. Mm-hmm. Make a connection. And your story will allow people to connect with you for different reasons. And I'm gonna wheel out my typical example again of Tanya. Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Tanya.
She is in my world because I talk about where we live, the Dingle, and the village that we live in. Mm-hmm. And her uncle lived in this village while she was growing up.
Yeah.
And so that is why she thought, and that's what connected her with me. It was only later that she realised that I'm pretty good at what I do.
And actually useful.
And became a client. Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's that. Even just today, storytelling has helped me make a new connection. And this is like super brand new. My email today, we're recording this on the 22nd of October. And so today's email, I mentioned Sharon Needles, who won RuPaul's Drag Race season something. I can't remember which
7,
season.
8,
yeah,
6. Can't know.
And it was all about basically being booed off stage is applause from ghosts, and how you can take something and turn it around. And I just really liked it. Anyway, that was what today's story was like. And I was telling my stories about, being scared about performing on stage and, standing up and speaking in front of people. Even doing this podcast, there's always that fear that people are just going to think I'm a total dick. But I just remember being booed is applause from ghosts, as Sharon Needles said, and it just made me smile. And that story prompted a reply from a guy called Bay. He likes to, most people call him Bay, but Bayardo Barrios, and he is a copywriter who I did not realise was on my email list. Hi, Bay. I didn't realise he was on my email list. He's a mutual friend with Misty as well. Hi, Misty. And he replied to say, thank you for quoting Sharon Needles here. Love your emails. Keep doing what you're doing. And I was just like, oh, that's really sweet. So I Googled him and had a look at his website. And on his website, and this just made, you can hear the smile in my face, on his website, on his sign-up form, he hasn't got submit or anything crap like that. He's got yes, as in yes, queen, which I was just like, oh, I think I love you. And on his homepage, he, instead of, he's got work with me, but instead of work as in W-O-R-K, he's got W-E-R-K, which is how RuPaul spells it on Drag Race. So
this guy is totally keyed into, your kind of vibe with the RuPaul. Yeah,
and so I clicked on Here's My Story, and this is where the real lesson is. Not just that I've made this really new connection to this guy that I really like, and, I emailed him back to say, I think I love you, and you've just made me cry, because I read his story, and, you got his story of his clients and his selling. He's a really good writer, by the way. If you want some good copywriting, go see Bay. But his story, it's got to, Two things about who he is and what he does. Number 2, it's got to be real. Nowadays, potential clients piece out at the slightest whiff of bullshit. And if you're a personal brand, you've got to let your personality shine. The good, the bad, and the super personal shit you only tell your therapist. This is exactly what I've been telling people. It's impossible to build a tribe of raving, paying fans when you hide in the shadows and fail to give people the opportunity to genuinely connect with you. I would know, because I spent years of my life hiding who I was. Let's rewind. I was 5 years old, sitting in the back of my dad's truck with my little brother, driving around the palm tree peppered paradise that is Miami. My brother and I were talking about The Little Mermaid, my then reigning Disney princess obsession. Not fully realising my dad was listening, I told my brother, I like Flounder more than Ariel because I like boys more than girls. The air suddenly got tense. My dad's jaw must have dropped to the floor. Obviously flustered, he told me, you're a boy, you're supposed to like girls. Almost immediately, without thinking twice, I spat out, I'll change when I grow up. It was in this moment that I discovered being different was unacceptable. I learned that if I wanted my family's love and approval, I needed to hide all my girly interests. I needed to hide that I, in fact, did like boys, even though I definitely didn't like Flounder like that. So I did. And that, his story goes on, and how he was bullied, and how his Catholic Latino family found it really difficult. And it's just... that story, I instantly connected with him because I've heard so many similar stories as a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race. And it just, literally made me cry because he's just lovely. And you can tell just by reading his page that he is lovely and he's an awesome writer. And, go find him. He's bayardobarrios.com. Read his story because he's done a really bloody good job of this.
Yeah, nice website.
Really nice website.
Good stories.
Good stories. And that's drawn me in. And that's we've now got a connection, and we're chatting on email, and we're now friends on Facebook. And I'm really hoping that he's going to come to Portugal next year. He can't make it to San Diego, but I'm really hoping he's going to come to Portugal next year because I want to bring him to the UK as well and introduce him to Dan and Ed and the Paul studio, because I think he'd love that. So yeah, that's the power of a good story from somebody who's not even famous yet. He's had some awesome clients.
But before today, never heard of him.
Never heard of him.
Got a connection.
Now got a connection because of the story that I told in my email and because of the story that he told on his website. So, we could probably stop the podcast there. Okay, anyway, so yeah, connection with your audience. Super important. Whatever stories you tell there is going to be something in one of them that's going to make somebody out there think, I need to get to know this person better. You know? Super important. Another reason why storytelling, and why you should tell your personal story, is that people can copy what you do, but they cannot copy who you are.
For sure.
Or if they try, they're just going to look stupid.
Yeah. You can only do that for a very short period of time before you make an absolute arse of yourself.
Exactly. And, you know, other people will have similar stories to you, and they might tell their similar stories, but then, you know, the nuance, the detail is going to be different. And the way you tell it's going to be different. And, you know, your stories are unique, just like you are. So you need to tell those stories. You need to get them out there. Reason C for telling your personal story. Stories share real experiences and not just facts. This isn't about telling people stuff. It's about showing. So humanity, empathy, experience, all of that stuff. You know, so it's not just about, here are the reasons that you should work with me. It's like,
I'm very good at putting wheels on cars.
Yeah. It's like, actually, this is how I got into being a mechanic. This is the thing that started my love of engines. You know, this is the experience that I've had. It was working on my granddad's thumper as a child, or, you know, working on my great granddad's, you know, Aston Martin that was a wreck that he decided that he was going to rebuild, that kind of thing. And it also, with the whole showing rather than telling, I can use another example from my world. Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Is the chemical translator, and we've been doing an exercise in kind of, you know, building up her, you know, her content planning and her avatar and all the rest of it. And one of the objections that her ideal clients might have to working with her is, you know, you're not an industry expert, you're just a translator. But actually, you know, that's incorrect in her case, because she has not only a degree in chemistry, she has been a chemist working in a lab. And, you know, she can tell people that, that's fine. She is an industry expert. She can say, I am an industry expert. I have a degree in this, that, and the other. But what's really going to bring her experience to life is telling the stories from the lab. And bringing that out into her marketing, because people won't just be reading, oh yeah, she's got a degree on a piece of paper, she's, you know, she's a chemist or whatever. It's like, oh gosh, yeah, actually, I recognise that lab story because I've been there and done that. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Suddenly there's connections and understandings and shared histories and all sorts of things going on.
Exactly. So that, you know, there really is no need for sales with this stuff, because stories do this. I mean, you still need to learn to sell, but these stories will do so much of the legwork for you. They really will. And so something that I got from Dom's bootcamp weekend as well is that the stories aren't just you. There's characters in your story as well, and they will make them richer. And so, you know, the characters in my story, I'm the star of my story, the story of me.
Well, I know you like to think so, but...
but the characters in my story, you know, there's Joe, you.
Hello.
You're my podcast sidekick.
I'm a real human being as well.
I know, but in the context of my business and the story that I tell about context of the context. Anyway,
Freudian. Never mind.
Of my business, and you know the fact that I'm the one who's doing the selling here, and that's my business. The stories are about me. But you're a character. Noodle and Whiskey are characters in my story. The sheeps and the chickens are characters. The Dingle itself is a character in my story.
It's a rickety old grumpy character.
Yeah. Misty is a character in my story. I am a character in Misty's story. You know, that's how it works. My friends are characters. For your client's story, so this is when you're writing your own story. For your client's stories, when you're writing stories to sell your products and services and you're making them the star of it, they are the star of it. And you've got to think, who are the characters in their stories? So, you know, in my clients, I'm the guide. That's my character. You know, their family are also characters. How their problems and things affect the characters in their stories is how you need to tell the stories so that you bring them into what you're trying to sell. Does that make sense? Cool. So yeah, there's loads and loads of stories that you can tell. And what I don't want people to think is, oh gosh, I've got to tell my entire life story in one go.
No.
You don't. Because your life isn't just one story. It's made up of many stories. And you could tell a different one at a different time in a different place.
Sure.
And they'll all touch somebody in a different way at a different time in a different place.
Different people.
Hopefully not inappropriately. So, okay, so let's look at a few actual famous people, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Who's a good storyteller, Joe, that is super famous?
I guess the Richard Branson type entrepreneurial guy. He was
the Richard Branson type entrepreneur. You mean Richard Branson?
Richard Branson. He didn't do well at school, and
he was a high school dropout.
He was a dropout.
He was dyslexic.
He was dyslexic. Mm-hmm. I guess he had a little record shop, didn't he? Yeah.
Well, he was told that he would never amount to anything. He dropped out of school and he started this little newsletter. He started a little record shop, and now he is probably one of the richest people on the planet.
But then also, not just his kind of historical story, but he also wrote loads of news stories with all of his ballooning around the world and speedboats across the Atlantic and breaking records and all that kind of fun stuff, wasn't he? He was on a whale at the time, but he was also building his story.
And his ridiculous publicity stunts, like when he drive like a giant Coke bottle down Oxford Street or something when he was launching new Coke, which, Virgin Coke, which actually ultimately failed, but because people like Coke. Mm. But, all of that stuff, it doesn't matter that it failed. He just tried stuff and he built stories out of it. And so you can learn a lot from him. Ash Amberjay, who I think is great. I love her writing. Her story, I can't remember all of the details of it, but I do know that it started with, her business started with her last $20 and her living in her car.
Eesh.
And she decided that she was going to write for a living and tell her story. And, within 6 months, she'd made $100,000, which is pretty damn good.
Good story.
And you don't have to have a rags to riches story, because I think there's so many rags to riches stories like that out there that us middle class, poor rich white kids will look at it and think, oh, I haven't got that kind of traumatic story. That's okay. You don't need to have one, because all of the people who aren't rags to riches that are in your ideal client, they will resonate with your story that isn't rags to riches. But believe me when I say you've still got interesting stuff to talk about. We all have challenges and issues, and just because we're not living in a toilet or whatever doesn't mean that it's not, it's not valid. All experience is valid. So Sheryl Sandberg is another good example. Her experiences as a woman climbing the corporate ladder and fighting the patriarchy to become like COO of Facebook. And that inspired her book Lean In and her story. And, she's done great stuff for women in business. Walt Disney built an entire empire on story. That's what Disney is.
Sure.
He was, if ever there's a king of storytelling, surely it's Walt Disney. Ellen DeGeneres gets other people to tell their stories.
Sure.
So does Jeremy Kyle, for that matter. But, we sneer at Jeremy Kyle, but they're people's stories, and that's why they're interesting. You can say all you want. I would never watch Jeremy Kyle, but if you're in a room with it on, you would be watching it, because that is the way these things work. Oprah Winfrey, queen of storytelling.
Another rags to riches.
Grew up in extreme poverty and abuse on a rural farm in Mississippi, and, decided that she wasn't going to settle for the only options available to a poor black girl. Mm-hmm. She's now, the richest black woman in America. She's incredible. And, she said, this is a direct quote from her, "My idea was to tell stories that affected the human spirit, stories that people could see themselves in."
And that worked.
That worked. That is how she has built her empire. That's part of the reason. That and kind of just getting on with it and not refusing to be put in a box.
Just doing it. Yeah.
But story. Story is it's the only thing that can ever change the world, I think. Really. So powerful. So, how do you tell a good story about yourself? We've covered this before in other podcasts, but just really quickly, a really good story needs emotion. Mm-hmm. For sure. It needs narrative, so you can't just ramble, from A to C to B to Z to M, like I just did then. But it needs to be coherent.
Yeah.
You need to create a connection with your listener. Share something that's intimate, share something that's personal to you. You can't just be surface.
Yeah.
And practice. Good storytellers aren't born. They practice and they're made. People don't just kind of think, I'm going to tell a story, having never done it before, step out on a stage and do a good job of it.
No, for sure.
They practice this stuff. So what's your story? I'm actually asking you.
My story?
No, I'm not. No. I'm actually asking you, though, dear listener, what is your story? Tell it.
Let people see it.
Yeah, tell it, put it out there. Be brave. Share something that you might feel a little bit uncomfortable sharing. Because I promise you, it will pay you dividends. For sure. If you have any questions about storytelling, you can send them in. And I would just like to thank all of the people who emailed me after last week to say, I've listened to every single one of your podcasts.
Really?
Yeah. I've had a handful of emails from people. So if you are someone who has listened to every single one of our podcasts and you haven't written to me yet, drop me a line, let me know, and I will send you a little gift. I'm plotting a little gift to send to the people who have got in touch so far. I can't promise it's going to be amazing, but it will make you smile at least. And yeah, let us know.
Nice.
In fact, drop me a line, tell me that you've listened to all of the podcasts and tell me your story.
Oof. That's a good answer.
Yeah. And if your story is good, well, all stories are good. If I may feature your story on the podcast is what I'm saying. So coming up next week is not, in fact, the power of stories, because that's this week. Coming up next week is the power of being published.
Ooh.
Yeah. And the fourth quark of successful business owners is that they are published.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are. So yeah, if you're struggling with storytelling, if you're struggling with knowing how to tell your story, how to put it out there, come to San Diego with us. I think this will go out just in time for you to get on a last-minute flight and meet us out there. Probably not, actually. So in that case, put the dates of the 26th to the 28th of July in your diary and join us in Portugal next year.
Nice. That's a good plan.
For Breaking Bread Portugal.
Cool.
All right. In the meantime, if you like this podcast, please go and subscribe on iTunes. Please leave us a review, a 5-star review. And also, give us a rating, a 5-star rating, and write us a review. We'll be very happy with that. And yeah, anything else to add, Joe, about storytelling?
Tell stories.
Great, thanks for that. We'll be back same time next week. Try and end on a more inspiring note than panicked look to tell stories. Oh, let's do the next podcast from San Diego.
Oh, do you think?
Maybe not the next. No, not the next one from San Diego. After. Maybe the one after. And we can do a video podcast, and we could be in the beach house.
On a beach somewhere.
Yeah, it'd be really cool.
That'd be nice.
So yeah, we'll be back same time next week. Be good, and if you can't be good, don't get caught. Bye.
Bye.
Like what you've just heard? Tell your colleagues, tell your friends, send them to www.businessforsuperheroes.com/podcast.